Hello, Fana. So today I'm gonna speak about the seedlings compost and how I make my seedlings with the soil blocks. So here we have the new batch of compost that we sifted and sterilized. So the first step is sifting with a mesh that is small enough so we don't have the piece of wood going through it. So here's the seedlings mix. So it's the same compost pile that we make from the stable. We let it compost for a few months on a pile, and then from there we sift it through a mesh that we built. And so it's small enough so the piece of wood don't go through. And you're gonna see the texture in a bit. It's fine. It's usually have a certain amount of sand or scoria, which helps for the draining, and then it's really nice fertile. So we do put them in bags of recycled bags. We sterilize them in this bathtub that was made also for pasteurizing the mushrooms and enjoying a nice hot tub once in a while. So I put approximately between 13 to 15 bags in the bath, and it's what I need for roughly each month of seedlings for the whole garden. And sterilizing is 12 hours at ideally 90 degrees. So usually I just let it kind of boil. And the bags sit on a frame of wood above the water, so they just steam. And then, as you saw me lifting the lid, it does really stay in the steam for 12 hours. We sterilize it to kill all the weeds, seeds, and also nematodes, if there is some in it. So we do lose a little bit of the life of the soil, but when I wet the compost to make the soil blocks, I activate it with the water from the mushrooms pasteurizing, if we have some. Which is full of sugar, does have a little bit of tannin, but doesn't seem to matter too much for the seedlings. And because usually it sits in the bathtub when we empty this tap for a few days, new microorganisms just come into it with the fermentation that happen naturally. I can add some EM if we have some as well, or the liquid that just bring new life in the blocks. And then we tie them with flax, so it's just from behind me, a little bit of flax, and then it's easy to open. So you don't want to fill up the bags too much, so they're easy to carry. And here's the compost. Pretty nice, fine. Does have some piece that I still take out, so it doesn't it's not too annoying in the blocks. So now I add water to the compost to get the good consistency. So here is the water from pasteurizing the mushroom or whatever soil activation you have. And it's important to put a little bit at a time and then mix it well, because it takes a bit of time to really hydrate fully. This load is a bit sandy, but it's actually still works pretty well. Sometimes I do add a bit of charcoal if I have some available. And this drum is actually the perfect size for that, because I can empty one bag or even sometimes two bags, and then I just do this batch at a time. So it's not too full, so I can move around with the soil blocks. So you want the compost to be wet enough to really stick together, but not too wet that it falls from the blocks. So it took me a little bit of time before to figure out the good consistency, but you go with the feeling. And then it allows you also to take all the big piece of wood that might be in there still, or the rocks that's gonna be annoying on the blocks. So I think we're pretty ready now. You can see that it starts to stick together. Yeah, let's give it a try this way and then maybe add more water if needed. So this is a soil blocker. So this is what I use now to grow the seedlings instead of the seedling trays. So I used to use those plastic seedling trays. Comes in different size. We got them second hand. We never bought them new. But I wanted to go away from plastic and try to find a faster way to transplant the seedlings and also have less stress for them, because transplanting a plant is stressful for them because you disturb the roots maybe. So with this one, it is a bit slower to make them compared to just fill up the tray, that's for sure, but it does have good advantages. When you transplant them, you transplant the whole block, and like I can show you in a minute, you do have all the roots already established in the block, so it means that you don't need to break the roots compared to if in the cells pull the plant and maybe you break the plant, or you have a little stick and then the soil just break apart, and then you have also less compost per cell, so it means that your seedlings need to be transplanted faster. A disadvantage of the soil blocks is that they dry out faster, so irrigation is a really important part of it. We established a sprinkler system, so it does make a nice mist over them, and this is, so far it works really well because it does irrigate the seedlings slowly, so it doesn't break down the blocks. They really stick together. If I made them well from the beginning, they do set well in those open trays. So they come in different sizes. I found them on AliExpress, but you have also specialized shops that have them. So this is the medium one. You also have with longer handles, 20 blocks at once, and they're really like tall, but I prefer the shorter handle. So you also have the tiny ones that I don't feel so useful so far because I feel like they dry out super fast, and actually you need to transplant them in a bigger block faster anyway. So I do have the little head to transplant those cubes in the medium one if I want. So instead of this one, I put the little cubes. I also have smaller heads for shorter hole. I prefer to use a deeper one so the seeds actually can be a bit further in, and then I fill up with a little bit of compost or scoria. This is just to show you how I I sow my seeds. I use this little plastic seeder, hand seeder. So you just choose the gap of it with a number, and then I just let it roll slowly. For all the cabbage seeds that are really round, I don't bother because they roll too fast and I drop more than one, so I just do it by hand. So now I'm gonna show you how I do it. So you really want to fill them up fully, and that's what I like about the round shape of it and the fact that it's plastic. It does allow me to just fill up the soil in the block and then press it hard on the side so it's all smooth, and then it's ready to put on the tray. And then you press and let it go slowly because sometimes it gets stuck at the bottom of the block. So in between, like after a few, I recently discovered that you wet it and then it allows to really stay really slippery, and then the soil doesn't stick to the bottom, because if it breaks your soil, your blocks, it's really, you have to start again. And in this way, I'm able to do 104 blocks per tray, and so it's more than what I get in the sales. But it's always up to you how many seedlings you need, how heavy is it to carry around, because don't forget that you have to bring them to the garden afterwards or to bring them in and out the greenhouse. So as you can notice here, there's a little gap between the blocks, so it does act like an air pruner. So it means that the roots don't go too much between the blocks, and again it does help to keep all the roots in the blocks when I transplant them and not stress the plant too much. So I do try to order seeds from local companies, New Zealand companies. We used to buy mainly from King Seeds, but I found recently Seta Seeds. So it's a New Zealand farm where they grow their own seeds, heritage. I'm really happy about those seeds. So far the lettuces were like fabulous. They grow really well, even in summer with the heat that we have. They also have a nice varieties of lettuces and other veggies. When I can find with them the veggies I need, I look for other companies. So I also found Grow Yours. I'm not sure if they do grow them in New Zealand, but it's a New Zealand company. They also have a nice rent. And then for the rest of it, we just still buy them on King Seeds. Sometimes I also order some seeds from Koanga Garden, which is also locally grown and sold. And when I don't find what I want with them, we go for King Seeds, but they are not locally grown. So now I'm gonna show you how I use this little hand seeder. So for the lettuce, it's the best. I try to not put too much seeds in the seeder, because it's not good to have them touch soil or getting wet and after putting them in a bag to be stored, because it can decrease the germination ability of it. And then after I just sprinkle, I just try to put it on an angle so they do come in a row and slower. And then I just drop one seed per hole. And as you can see, the hole is pretty deep, so you don't want to drop more than one seed because it's harder to get. And then it's a really nice meditation job. I actually really love to do that. Sometimes I also use a pencil, the tip of the pencil, to help them going down or slowing them. So I only have one coming down. So here we have some celeriac. I made them in January, and the celery take really long time to germinate, so they also need some time to really be well established in the blocks, and so far in these blocks it does work really well. And here I tried to have 2 seeds in the gap. So we've got the sunflower and then the broccoli rod. I noticed that they do miss a little bit of sun, but they still germinate pretty well together in this deep hole. So with our new greenhouse design, we actually have now the potential to get the seedlings straight outside. So that's pretty handy, because I first start them in the greenhouse when it's warm, so the seeds all germinate inside, and then when the true leaves are out, I move them outside so the seedlings get stronger. Those ones, I couldn't transplant them before the storm, so they do really need to be transplanted now, but they still look good. So here, just to show you how I transplant them. So as you can see here, this one, sometimes they come nicely, sometimes if they don't have roots, they just fall apart. And here, because I covered with compost to cover the seeds, you barely see the blocks, but you can still see here it comes nicely, and you can see the little roots coming on the side. And here it's time to transplant them because you have the true leaves of the seedlings coming up. So this is lettuces, and then I can show you how I transplant them. So next to the ginger, I'm going to show you how I can plant those. So here I have a little bit of mulch around, so I just need to make a little gap big enough for the cube to fit, and then just go around like this, and then that's it.